He stood there, frozen, as his boss pointed to the door. No words, just a cold, silent gesture. Marcus, the only black man in the room, felt every eye burn into him. Humiliation stung worse than any insult. But that moment wasn't the end. It was the spark. 1 year later, Marcus didn't just walk back into that room. He owned it. How did he turn shame into power? You won't believe what happened next. He was good at his job. Damn good. Marcus, 29, had climbed the ranks at Pinnacle Corp, a sleek tech firm in Chicago. His code was flawless, his ideas sharp, his work ethic relentless. But in that glass, walled meeting room on the 17th floor, none of it mattered. It was a Tuesday, late afternoon, the kind of day where the office hums with quiet ambition. Marcus sat at the table, pitching a game-changing app feature to the execs. His voice was steady, his slides polished. He was in his element, until he wasn't. The boss, Richard, a man with a smile that never reached his eyes, leaned back in his chair. Marcus caught the glance, sharp, dismissive. Then, without a word, Richard raised his hand and pointed to the door. The room went silent. 10 colleagues, all white, froze. Marcus's throat tightened. Is he serious? He thought. No explanation, no warning. Just that finger, like a blade cutting through his dignity. He stood, heart pounding, grabbed his laptop and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him. Whispers followed, but no one spoke up. Outside, Marcus leaned against the wall, his breath shaky. He'd faced subtle slights before, missed invites, offhand comments. But this was raw, public, undeniable. He replayed the moment. Richard's smirk, the team's silence. Was it his pitch, his presence, his skin? The sting of that last thought hit hardest. Marcus wasn't naive. He knew corporate America could be brutal for a black man, but he believed his work could shield him. He was wrong. That night, he sat in his small apartment, staring at the city skyline. Anger churned, but so did something else, resolve. He wasn't quitting, not like this. Marcus had grown up in a tough neighborhood, raised by a single mom who worked 2 jobs. He'd fought for every opportunity, from scholarships to this corner office job. That silent gesture wasn't just a slight. It was a challenge, and Marcus didn't lose challenges. He started digging. Richard wasn't just a boss. He was a gatekeeper, the kind who thrived on control. Marcus had heard rumors, shady deals, favoritism, but never had a reason to care. Now he did. He stayed late at the office, combed through old emails, cross-referenced project logs. Something wasn't right with Pinnacle's latest contract, a multi-million-dollar deal with a shady offshore client. Numbers didn't add up. Signatures looked rushed. Richard's name was everywhere. Marcus wasn't alone in this. He confided in Lena, a junior analyst who'd always had his back. She'd seen Richard's power plays too, how he sidelined anyone who didn't kiss up. He's untouchable, she warned, but if you're doing this, I'm in. Together, they became detectives in their own workplace, piecing together a puzzle no one else dared touch. The deeper they went, the dirtier it got. Richard wasn't just a bad boss. He was a liability. He found the first crack in Richard's armor in a buried email chain. It was late, the office empty except for the hum of the AC. Marcus's screen glowed with a message from 2 years ago. Richard promising a client discreet adjustments. To secure a deal, the client, a shell company tied to a known tax haven. Marcus's pulse raced. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. He cross-checked invoices and found discrepancies. Inflated budgets, missing receipts, payments funneled to accounts Richard controlled. But it wasn't enough. Evidence like this could be explained away. Richard had lawyers, connections, a golden reputation. Marcus needed more. He and Lena started mapping Richard's moves. They noticed he always held closed-door meetings with a select few execs, always on Thursdays, always after hours. Marcus hacked together a plan. He'd accidentally access the meeting room's shared drive where Richard stored his files. Risky, yes, but Marcus was past playing safe. One Thursday, he lingered in the office pretending to debug code. When the execs filed in, he slipped into a nearby server room, heart hammering, using a backdoor admin account. Don't ask how he got it. He accessed the drive. Files flooded his screen, contracts, wire transfers, even a memo outlining creative accounting. To hide losses, Richard was skimming millions, passing it off as bonuses to loyalists. Marcus downloaded it all, his hands shaking. This was dynamite, but then a noise, footsteps, Richard's voice sharp and close. Marcus froze, the drive still copying. If he was caught, it wasn't just his job, it was his future. He unplugged the drive, slipped it into his pocket, and ducked out just as Richard entered the hallway. Their eyes met for a split second. Did he know? Marcus didn't wait to find out. He was out the door, the evidence burning a hole in his pocket. The next day, Richard called him into his office. "You've been busy," he said, his tone icy. Marcus played dumb, but his mind raced. Had someone seen him? Did the system log his access? Richard leaned forward, his smile a threat. "Stay in your lane, Marcus. You're good at code, not games." It wasn't a warning. It was a dare. Marcus nodded, left, and knew the clock was ticking. Richard wasn't stupid. He'd cover his tracks soon. Marcus and Lena worked fast. They anonymized the evidence, sent it to a trusted journalist, and looped in Pinnacle's board through a whistleblower channel. The journalist, a pit bull named Claire, smelled blood. She dug deeper, connecting Richard's deals to a wider scandal involving 3 other firms. Marcus didn't just have evidence. He had a bombshell, but he wasn't safe. Richard's loyalists started watching him, whispering in the break room. Lena got a cryptic email, "Back off or you're next." The tension was unbearable. Marcus barely slept, haunted by that silent gesture in the meeting room. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for every person Richard had stepped on. He remembered his mom's words, "You don't win by being loud. You win by being right." He was right, and he'd prove it. The story broke on a Monday morning. Claire's article hit, naming Richard and his cronies. Social media exploded. #Pinnacle scandal trended for days. The board launched an investigation, and Richard's empire crumbled. He was suspended, then fired, then sued. Marcus watched it unfold from his desk, heart pounding, but the real twist was coming. He didn't expect what happened next. The board, desperate to clean house, needed a new leader, someone untainted, respected, and bold. Lena nominated Marcus. At first, he laughed it off, him, the guy who was kicked out of a meeting, but the board saw his work, his grit, his results. They saw the app feature he'd pitched, the one Richard dismissed, now projected to earn millions. They saw the whistleblower who risked everything. Marcus met with the board in that same glass-walled room. The irony wasn't lost on him. They offered him Richard's job, interim VP of Innovation, not just a seat at the table, the head of it. He accepted, his voice steady but his mind reeling. The kid from the South Side was now calling the shots. But this wasn't just a promotion. It was a statement. He walked into his first meeting as VP, the same room where Richard had pointed him out. The team stared, some in awe, some uneasy. Marcus didn't smile. He didn't need to. He laid out his vision, transparency, merit, no favorites. The room listened. Lena, now his right hand, grinned from the corner. They'd done it together, but the story wasn't clean. Richard didn't go quietly. He lawyered up, spun lies, even tried to smear Marcus online. Anonymous posts called Marcus a diversity hire. Who got lucky? It stung, but Marcus was ready. He countered with facts. His app's success, the scandal's fallout, his team's loyalty. The truth was louder than Richard's noise. Then came the double twist. Claire's investigation uncovered one last secret. Richard had targeted Marcus deliberately. An old email revealed he saw Marcus as a threat. Too smart, too independent. That silent gesture wasn't random. It was calculated. Richard wanted to break him. Instead, he'd forged a leader. Marcus used his new role to change Pinnacle. He pushed for diversity, not as a buzzword, but as a reality. He mentored young coders, especially those who looked like him, who'd never had a shot. He didn't forget that meeting room, that finger, that silence. It fueled him. He stood at the head of the table a year after that humiliating day. Marcus wasn't just a coder anymore. He was the boss, Richard, a footnote, disgraced and forgotten. The final twist wasn't just Marcus's rise. It was the email Claire found, proving Richard's sabotage. That silent gesture was meant to bury Marcus, but it lifted him higher than anyone expected. The room that once rejected him now answered to him. Marcus's story isn't just about revenge, it's about justice. He didn't just take Richard's chair, he rewrote the rules. Pinnacle's stock soared, his app launched, and the kid who was silenced became the voice of change. That's the power of fighting back, not with fists but with truth. What would you have done in Marcus's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced a silent slight and turned it around? Maybe you've got a story of your own, a moment where you flipped the script. Share it below, and let's talk about what justice really looks like. Hit that like button if Marcus's comeback fired you up, and subscribe for more stories of underdogs who win big. Until next time, keep fighting.